Welcome to today's Tech Tip, bite-sized professional learning you can implement right away. Join me in welcoming Miss Allison Burball as our special guest to teach us about Excel today.
Hello, let's start by going over some vocabulary that will be useful when you're using Excel. First, this entire file is called a workbook. Inside a workbook, you can have worksheets, which show up down here as different tabs. You can see in this Excel workbook, I have several different worksheets. There are also tabs along the top. When you click on these tabs, they open up all of these options, which is called the ribbon. Right now, I'm in the Home tab, and I know I'm in the Home tab because of the green line underneath the Home tab. Inside the Home tab is a whole ribbon of options, but if I were to click on the Insert tab, it opens up a ribbon of different options. Below the ribbon is the formula bar, which displays the value or formula in the active cell. You can enter or edit values in this formula bar. The vertical groups of cells are called columns, and they are labeled with letters at the top. The horizontal groups of cells are called rows and are labeled with numbers along this left side. One individual box is called a cell, and we refer to cells by their column letter and their row number. So in this case, this cell would be C3. On this worksheet, we're going to cover the very basic formulas you can use in Excel. One thing I appreciate about using Excel is making Excel do the work for me. So let's take a look at how this can work. The first thing we need to remember is that whenever we're using formulas in Excel, they must always, always, always start with an equal sign. So for this first addition problem, I'm going to click on the cell where I want the answer to appear, right here inside D1. We always, always, always start with an equal sign. So I'm going to type equals, and then I'll type the numbers 10, a plus sign, and 5. Then I'm going to click enter. When I click enter, this moves my active cell or selected cell one row down, and I can see that Excel did that math for me. 10 plus 5 is 15. I'm going to click on here so just so you can see, even though the cell says 15, I can see up here in the formula bar the actual formula that is providing that answer for me. So, however, if I were using Excel for budgets or inventory and I needed to change these numbers, maybe I needed to change this 5 to an 8, that is not going to change my answer over here because I actually typed in these numbers. So I want to make sure that when I'm using these formulas, I'm making Excel do the work for me. So I'm going to delete this formula so that we have an empty cell. And now I'm going to use a formula. So again, I'm going to start with an equal sign. I'm going to click on this cell, B1, which is where I have my 10. I'm going to type my addition sign, and now I'm going to click on this cell, C1. And I can see these cells have been entered into my formula. When I click enter, I get the answer of 18. Now, this is really, really helpful because if I needed to change this number maybe back to a 5 and I hit enter, I can see that that formula now changes to 15. Again, when I click on the cell, I can see the formula that is behind this cell, kind of what's working behind the scenes. I have an equal sign, whatever the value of B1 is, plus whatever the value of C1. Therefore, if I needed to change these numbers, Excel would automatically do that updated math problem. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use a very similar formula for a subtraction problem. So of course, I'm going to start with an equal sign. I'm going to click on this first cell in B3 and then use a subtraction symbol and click on this cell for C3. You could also type in these cells, B3 and C3. I'm going to go ahead and click enter, and now I have my answer of 20. Again, if I needed to change one of these numbers, maybe 25 needs to go down to 20, I'll hit enter here, and my answer is now updated because I used that formula. Multiplication is going to work the same way. You just need to be careful with the symbol for multiplication. You have to use an asterisk for multiplication and not an X. So for this problem, of course, I'm going to start with an equal sign. Every formula must start with an equal sign. And I'm going to click here inside B5, and I'm going to use an asterisk for the multiplication symbol. And now I can click here for C5. I'll hit enter on my keyboard, and now I end up with the answer of 120. I could change my 10 to a 5, and my formula is going to update the answer for me to 60. And then our last of our basic formulas here is a division problem. Of course, working the same way, starting with an equal sign. I'll click inside B7. I'm going to use the / for a division symbol, and then I'll click inside C7 and click enter, and I have my 7 here. Lastly, I want to show you how AutoSum works. Excel will add all of these numbers together without us having to type each individual cell into the formula. I'm going to click into the cell where I want the answer and then start with an equal sign, of course. Now I'm going to start typing the word sum, S-U-M, and I have to put in an open parenthesis because I need to put in the range of what I wanted added together. I'm going to click inside my first cell, and I'm going to actually click and drag all the way down to the very last number that I have here. Excel types this in for me as B10 colon B14. That just means I have all of these cells selected, which also helps with this dotted line that's surrounding it. Now, anytime in Excel that you use an open parenthesis, you have to close that parenthesis. So I'm going to close that parenthesis, and now I am ready to hit enter and get a total of 170.84 for this total. And the very nice thing about Excel is that this is going to automatically update. So let's say I needed to change this number right here to 100. Once I do that, I can see the total also updated because I'm using that sum formula, that AutoSum. These are just a few of the basic formulas you can use to help you become more proficient with Excel.
Thanks for coming to today's technology tips for today's classroom.